A lot of nonprofit teams I speak to treat their annual report like some homework assignment, and there are these feelings of just dread. Maybe you can relate. You probably find yourself pulling together content, nudging folks for those final impact numbers, collecting photos in folders, and trying to find the highest res photos. And if you're lucky enough, you have a designer or another person on staff that can pull it all together. And then the worst case is that you have to do it all yourself. So I understand that there are a lot of moving parts. Now, as you may realize, or maybe you don't realize it, your donors are deciding whether to keep believing in your mission and your work as soon as they open your annual report. And so it's a big deal. So today I'm walking you through 4 adjustments you can make to your report to make it more compelling and help donors really see that they should stay involved in what you're doing. Now, as you can see, it says stop creating annual reports as documents and start creating experiences. Now, an experience is different from a document. It starts before someone opens your annual report. Maybe it's an envelope that the report comes in, or it's a subject line introducing your annual report. That first moment of curiosity is where the experience begins, and then the experience moves them into the report. So maybe they see the cover, they've opened the PDF, they've taken it out the envelope, and so they're gonna feel things and see things before they even read anything. Then the experience moves them with a feeling before a fact through texture, color, that first image they see. So think about the organizations that your donors might admire. Nobody's quoting their impact data like verbatim at like a dinner party, but they are remembering how the report felt in their hands or how a story really pulled them in. That's not just this happy accident. That's what happens when design is intentional every step of the way. When your report is just a document, donors might be informed or updated on what you're doing, but they don't feel anything. And then it's like your whole year of impact is reduced to this PDF that no one reads all the way through. In the end, I want you to remember that a report informs and experience builds belief. And belief is what funds the year ahead. So the first adjustment I want you to make to your report is to build a journey and not just these independent sections with labels that you typically see. So I've seen a ton of reports that just list the headers like programs, program names, impact, like an impact data spread, and financials. And that's great, but it doesn't really help you stand out. Instead, I want you to think of your story in these scenes where you start with this tension or this problem or issue, you show the turning point, and then you reveal the transformation and the ripple effect. So instead of organizing by like departments, I want you to organize by the human journey in this story. And when donors start to feel the progression in the story building, they're gonna wanna stay engaged and see what happens next and keep them on the edge of their seat. And what this looks like in practice is, let's say you work with low-income students who you help get to college and then thrive beyond college. In this case, the story is about a girl named Maya. She's 16 and she's juggling a bunch of jobs to help her mom be able to pay rent, so she's falling behind in class. And her teachers and counselors, they take notice, but they don't really see the deeper issue. However, she gets connected with your after-school program, and she's met with a hot meal, a safe place, a counselor that really sees her and asks how she's doing beyond just the academics. And Maya is able to really up her grades through this space you've created for her. And 6 months in, she's starting to see the shift in her grades and her attitude. And she tells her counselor and tutor that she wants to start studying nursing. And she's been talking so much about your program at home, and her brother ends up joining, and her mom goes to a workshop that you put on for parents. And then Maya is able to tell her story as this first person in her family to apply to college at your donor breakfast. And it really makes an impact on people. And so just in this one example, you can see how powerful your work becomes when you position it in this way with this building, instead of leading with a program title, a description, and then your story somewhere buried in the midst of it all. And the next adjustment I want you to make to your report is letting the donor walk through your story, similar to how I just gave you that example with Maya. So instead of presenting a static PDF like a museum wall that people can't really engage with and interact with and click around within. So instead of doing that, I want you to think about your report as more of a immersive path. So for example, if you have a landing page version of your report, you can have quotes appear as someone scrolls down the page, or maybe data animates as the impact unfolds, or you leave room for just images to really make an impression and help people to reflect. And in a printed report, this could look like different pull quotes and stats within the spreads, or again, large images that have text on top of them that really support your story, or maybe you divide your report into chapters, just like how books are structured. What you're doing here is making donors really walk through your impact page by page. And this will help increase the engagement because people are seeing the design mirror the emotional arc of your story as it builds. And if you're not sure how to pull this off in your annual report, check out our annual report template kits that are linked in the description below that have all this story building already built. Now that we talked a little bit about story building, I want to talk about creating connection through specificity. So instead of saying families were supported, which is just like this vague statement that anybody can claim, you want to think about how you can add your unique point of view, more specifics, and really zoom into the families that you are supporting. And that will help you stand out in a sea of other nonprofits doing similar work. This might look like layering in context for how people process information. So maybe you have an image of a family that you've supported, and then you have an audio clip that someone can listen to from that family that speaks more on their story. And then lastly, you might have some text that outlines the story with stats. And so what you're doing is connecting these actual layers through visual, story, and data. And when those three sort of lock into place, that's when belief is really building and donors are really able to see how these different parts of the story fit together. Lastly, the final adjustment you can think about making to your report is designing with emotional rhythm in mind, similar to how music tells a story and makes you feel something. And so in this case for reports, instead of giving pages the same amount of content, you can really alternate between text heavier pages and lighter pages, or maybe you have a really bold spread with a more like relaxed, quieter spread, or maybe you're zooming in heavy on a story, then you zoom out and then you back it up with proof. So just like music, your report needs the highs and the lows, and it helps keeps donors not sort of knowing what comes next, but they're just like excited about it. And there you have it. 4 adjustments that will help shift your report from one that just informs and people kind of skim to one that builds belief and people want to read it more deeply and all the way through. And if you want a head start on this, check out our annual report template kits in the description below. If not, subscribe to our channel for more insights on how to create reports that build belief in your mission. See you next time.